Folks, it's just as I told you yesterday. I don't think that the war is over. We're taking a breath, but I don't have tremendous faith that the Iranians will keep the peace. I just don't see it. Sam Murjovsky here, by the way, behind the What's Right microphone. Good to be with you as always. Happy Thursday. Sam at what'srightshow.com is my email, at What's Right Sam on X, formerly known as Twitter. So okay, well, of course, what is it now? About a day and a half since Trump's ultimatum. His, what was that, Tuesday at 5 p.m. my time, 8 p.m. Eastern, that he was going to rain nuclear bombs on Iran, wiping its civilization off the map if it did not agree to reopen the strait, among other things. And then what we learned through the course of yesterday was that there was this one 10-point plan out there that didn't offer to reopen the strait. And then the Trump people come in and said, well, there's multiple 10-point plans running about. Now, my caution to you in analyzing this thing so you understand what's going on is that nothing is as it seems. I have no doubt that Trump is flagrantly lying about things. I would expect him to do that. There may be a very specific strategic reason why we're taking this pause, and we're coming up with an excuse to do it. And Trump isn't going to openly say it, and nor should he, right? He's not obligated to lay out, sensitive information or his intentions. So I'm people going, oh, look, the war's over and we lost and the strait is still closed and, Trump tacoed and all this stuff. Just for Pete's sake, don't listen to the same people that a mere day and a half ago were forecasting a nuclear Armageddon, all right? It's the same Trump that we had since 2015, but I would argue a new and improved version this go-around. So he is deliberately misleading us. He is deliberately misleading our enemies. There might be other reasons that we're not aware of why this thing had to be paused. And maybe there is some negotiation. By the way, they call this the Mosaic defense. Have you heard this? It's basically when Soleimani was taken out by Trump, when they sent that Tomahawk missile down, chopped him into smithereens, the IRGC, the Iran Revolutionary Guard, they came out with this idea that they were going to fragment command and control. I believe there's 30-odd provinces in Iran, and each one was given a high degree of autonomy. And the idea is that a single, targeted strike, a decapitation strike, if you will, for example, at the Ayatollah, which was successful in February, would not prevent the country from the military from defending itself and from firing off missiles. And that's what you saw. You saw even as Iran was negotiating and promising some of its friendly neighbors, okay, that they would stop bombing. The foreign minister out there, no, we didn't mean to do it. We're not going to bomb you. 10 minutes later, there's a missile flying at Qatar. Whoopsie daisy, right? I'm giving this as an example. So this Mosaic defense, this fragmented defense where the 31 provinces in Iran each have their own command and control structure, mean that who exactly are we negotiating with? Right? Is there a central government in Iran that is responsible for everything? And my take on that is that there isn't. Okay? Which then begets an important question. Well, look, if you're over at CBS News, you obviously assume that Trump is so stupid that he doesn't know this. So stop that, right? That's dumb thinking. Of course, the Trump administration knows this very well. So when they say they're negotiating, again, this what tells me is that there's something bigger going on, something larger than just, oh, let's see if we can find peace. And don't expect, again, because this is like Iran is a wounded animal, and it's having these involuntary body spasms because of all of these, we'll call them watertight compartments in command and control, all these different provinces doing their different thing. Don't anticipate that you're going to see a resolution to hostilities. It's just not likely. So that's my take on this. And one bit of news here regarding the war, concrete news, is late yesterday, the FBI arrested the leaker, or at least one of the leakers, identified in court papers as Courtney Williams of Wagram, North Carolina. Now, they've indicted her in connection with transmitting classified national information to journalists. That's the allegation. And this, I believe, has to do with information about the two pilots that were that had ejected and were behind enemy lines, were in harm's way, and needed to be recovered. And if you'll remember, Trump really went off on this because this information leaking out to the press, of course, then leaked out to the enemy and jeopardized American lives. Now, this is what happens. There's people inside the government that hate Trump. This is the 4 years of Biden, putting in all these wokesters into the command. So this, what was she, by the way? She was a Army employee, and she had a top secret clearance. Okay, well, so they found her, they charged her, and it's by the way, it's a cautionary tale because I think for the most part, the Bush administration, Obama administration, the leaking, they just, it has to be really egregious for there to be any kind of crackdown. So Trump here said, no, this is not they're gonna absolutely go after this person. So they are, and perhaps there will be other arrests. The story that has caught my eye, I've got to bring this up because at first blush, sort of a non-issue of a story, but I think it fits into something larger going on right now in our country. Did you see the other day that there was a fire, a giant fire in Ontario, California? Now, Ontario is part of the Inland Empire, Southern California. There's a lot of people live out there. There are a ton of warehouses. And this is because there's some major freeways intersecting through there, the 10, the 210, the 60, and of course the 15. So major interstate freeways. So it's a place where goods get shipped to and shipped from, staging areas. Anyway, there's a warehouse that caught on fire, a massive fire. Now, a big story because of course this doesn't happen very often. And it destroyed completely a Kimberly-Clark distribution center. All right. Well, the news yesterday came out that it had been an arson. Okay. The fire was deliberately set. And why do we know it was deliberately set? Well, because the person who set it made a video of himself setting it. And here's the video.
Should have paid us enough to live. We may not get paid enough to live, but these dirt sheep. All you had to do was pay us enough to live. All you had to do was pay us enough to live. All you had to do was pay us enough to live. There goes your inventory.
And you can see it burning. And it's literally, he's setting fire to, well, Kimberly-Clark makes toilet paper. I think most people, toilet paper, paper products, the like. You can imagine setting toilet paper on fire is pretty easy work. It doesn't take a lot. And so in very short order, he's got a massive pallet loads of TP that is basically combusting out there. Now, let me. You're probably thinking, Sam, really, you're talking about Iran, and now you're talking about toilet paper on fire. What the hell? Sam's lost his marbles. I can just hear it now. I'm going to get these emails. Will you just hang tight? Let me explain something to you. Even if it was an arson and we didn't have this video, I wouldn't necessarily be talking about the story in any great depth, but we have the video and we hear his voice. The man in the video, or just off screen recording the video, is Shamal Abdulkarim. And this Abdulkarim guy clearly is explaining why he is committing the arson. Now, let's take him at his word for a minute, just for the purposes of this conversation. Pay us a livable wage. All you had to do, he's telling this to his employer, presumably Kimberly Clark or whatever third party owns the warehouse and is managing it on behalf of the company. Pay us a livable wage. That's all you had to do. Now, I have said this before, that we're in the midst of an epic shift in this country, and that the American independent free market exceptionalism that we have come to rely on and expect to be woven into the fabric of America is rapidly eroding, and that there is a movement within of individuals who really would want to overthrow the entire capitalist system. And with it, by the way, a lot of things, it's not just targeting big companies, targeting individuals, targeting private property ownership, targeting income disparity, and the like. I've mentioned many times before that I believe we are in the midst of the early stages of the American Communist Revolution. I'm not telling you it's going to succeed. I'm just telling you it's happening. Not all revolutions succeed, and I'm hoping this is one that gets put down, but we got to be talking about it. And remember this, too. There's a great piece, if this is actually before the fire, Jonathan Alpert wrote this piece in The Hill. He is incidentally, he's a psychotherapist. That's how he describes himself in New York and Washington. New York and Washington. Imagine being a shrink in New York and Washington, Robbie. Do you imagine the kind of head jobs you are dealing with on a first of all, I get that couch fumigated at least every other day, for starters. Anyway, so he practices in those two states, and what does he say? Well, this is what he says. He's got this piece that came out in The Hill. Why so many Americans now sympathize with the villain. And he writes, as a practicing psychotherapist, I see a version of this shift coming up close. And the shift is that people are willing to identify with people that we once considered condemned. Arsonists, bad. Right? Think about that. This company, this is devastating for the company. This is destroyed inventory. It's not even about the value of its revenue. This is going to cost many people livelihood. Okay? But watch, and this is going to be, these are, I promise you, prophetic words. The name of this guy is going to become widely known. We're going to talk about him. I'll give you another example of this, Luigi Mangione. Remember Luigi Mangione? Yeah, it wasn't that long ago that Luigi Mangione had shot a guy, by the way, a CEO of a evil health insurance company, shot him basically point blank in the back of his head. He executed him in cold blood. And whatever came of that, Luigi Mangione's been made into a national hero. Okay? And, they've written a musical. They're writing a musical about Luigi Mangione, literally inspired by him. He's got the babes, I guess we'll call them the fan club showing up at his hearings. These people are putting up murals of him. And this on the same day that Irina Zaritska's killer, right, the deranged homeless man, DeCarlos Brown, he's schizophrenic. Yeah, no shit. All right. Just yesterday was evaluated and found that he cannot stand trial. He's not fit for trial. He's fit to be out on the street. He's fit out to be allowed to murder people. He's fit to be released out on bail over and over and over and over again. But now he can't be held accountable. And watch, I wouldn't be surprised if Luigi Mangione gets off the hook. If the jurors come back, it's with the non-guilty. And so what is this? You've got arsonists and murderers getting celebrated for sticking it to the man. You have killers who are allowed to kill. When people put up a mural of Irina Zaritskaya, what happened? It got taken down because the left didn't want her honored, her life, and her horrific, brutal slaughter recognized. They didn't want any of that. But these same leftists will put up murals of Luigi Mangione. And if this, pardon the pun, catches fire, this arson from earlier this week, then expect the name of the arsonist to be back, to be lionized in equal ways. Shamel Abdelukarim. I don't know, maybe I'm not pronouncing that. By the way, base rate at the facility, $18.55 an hour. It's low. I get that. I've got some news for you, Shamel. You're going to get replaced by a robot. It's not going to be that long. Did you see the news, by the way, of the Tesla is canning, I guess for now, the Model X and the Model S. Those are the more expensive, we'll call them the luxury versions of Tesla cars. And I don't know what's really behind it. Maybe they're canceling them now. They want to sell inventory that is going to remain on the lot. There could be a number of marketing reasons why they're doing the announcement. But the reason that Elon Musk says that they're going to cut those two models is to free up factory space to build the robots, to build the Optimus robots, right? And this is, right, the Optimus is going to be in the warehouse. So he's going to be working, basically 23 hours a day. I don't know how much charge he's going to need, maybe 22 hours a day. He's not going to run around with a lighter, and he's not going to be, joining the Democratic Socialist Party. Now, right, I mean, in some dystopian future, the rise of the machines, they will come after us too. I get that, understand. We're going to miss the days when all we had was a little arson here and there, okay? But the reality is, if you think it's bad now, if you think that people are mad now, if you think that some worker thinks that today it's bad, that he's only making $19 an hour, he can't make a livable wage, then just wait till his job disappears. I'm not here to scare anybody, but boy, I'm a realist. And I see a little bit into the future. And again, I'm just, for those of you who are new to the program, I'm not just a pretty face on the radio. I have a law firm. I'm an attorney. I started a legal tech company. I understand tech to some extent more than most people that are in podcasting or on the radio. And I understand how this intersects with law and politics, which is, I think, even more critical. And I'm telling you, a perfect storm is brewing on the horizon. Imagine a few million people a year rendered unemployed, technologically unemployed, and at the same time a rise in the socialist madness and fervor. It's not good, folks. It's not good. Sam Rajovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Friends, my email, sam@whatsrightshow.com. And of course, I'll be back in a moment. Just hang tight. Much more to cover after this.
The Sam and Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
Robbie, I have do this today. I neglected to do it yesterday, and I got to do it today. I got to give a huge shout out to Kelvin. Kelvin, if you're out there, thank you for the referral to Sam and Ash Law of your friend. Okay, your friend was in a Tesla. He was hit by a UPS truck. He was parked. He was going to go to another firm. Instead, he came here, and he did it because of you, because you're a loyal listener, and you put in the good word for Sam and Ash Injury Law. This is how to do it. Keep your friends from making big mistakes, like going to a bad lawyer, for one, because you wrote the firm. I can tell you this is not a great. This firm is not a great firm, but Sam and Ash Injury Law is a quality firm, which will represent you well, and most importantly, will take the stress of the case off your shoulders. It's a mess out there dealing with the insurance company yourself. Forget about it. They will use you and abuse you, drag you down the path, all the paper you're sending them, all the emails, the text messages, answering their questions, recorded statements, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Weeks, months later, presto, you get an offer, you think it's all going to be wrapped up, and it's a fraction of what you were expecting. And you go, well, wait a minute, I've been fair with you. I've done everything right. Go pound sand. Go hire a lawyer. So if that happens, get to the end of it, hire a lawyer. But remember, you could save yourself that heartache and probably do better on your case if you don't make mistakes along the way. samandashlaw.com, 800-304-2000, 800-304-2000, samandashlaw.com, because you deserve what's right. Did you see this Mamdani press conference? You know, by the way, if we're going to talk about the rise of the communists in America, we got to talk about Mamdani. I mean, by the way, there's, I guess, self-reported membership here in the Democratic Socialists of America, fairly low, but as anticipated, is growing. All right. It's going, the numbers are going up. Pre-2015, there were about 5,000 or 6,000 people in the Democratic Socialists of America. Bernie Sanders came along, you know, the great prophet of doom. If Bernie Sanders had his way with America, you know, it'd be like Stalinist Russia. Believe me, no, it really would be. I'm not even exaggerating. 8,500, it doubled, almost doubled. 2017, it went to 24,000, so from 9,000, a little under, to 24,000. Then in 2018 to 55,000, then to 2021, almost 100,000. And now, basically end of last year, early this year, we are well over 100,000. So it's growing. Now, it's a lot more than that when you assume, or you include, I should say, the people that are fans of the agenda. Like, I think a lot of people that voted for Mamdani, Robbie, don't identify as Democratic Socialists. But it really doesn't matter, does it? If they support him, if they vote for him, if they bring him into office. And how many New Yorkers right now, and I know I'm talking about New York, I get it. Trust me, I'm not New York obsessed. I'm just, it's a cautionary tale is what it is. Well, who's to say that what happened in New York, not with maybe Mamdani, but with someone else, couldn't happen in America? Can you imagine a president of the United States with the same mindset, the same ideology as a Mamdani, right? That's where this is. I'm just telling you that you think that the Bolsheviks in Russia were the majority of people out there? You think that it was a majority movement? This is a very important thing. It's from history. You know, the Iranian Revolution. You think that was a majority of the country that supported it? A lot of good people stayed home, stayed out of it, didn't care. And a relatively small minority of very vocal, well-organized, and violent people took those countries over. That's the truth. So you can say, well, it's just 100,000 people, Sam. I don't know. But look, in New York, with not a lot of violence, they put that Mamdani guy in. So he held a press conference. This is what I wanted to share with you. Everybody has gotten hung up on the racial component of this, which is, of course, he's talking about a report. I guess this report was put together during the Adams administration. And all the report shows is that white people, on average, are wealthier than black people in New York. And I'm not even going to sit here and talk about why that is. Okay, it's not helpful. But he's treating this as if it's some giant discovery and it needs to be corrected. And along comes the E word. Pay attention.
The inequities in this city, the racial inequities, are stark. We are talking about findings that have shown that the wealth of a median white household in the city is more than $200,000, while that of a black household is less than $20,000. This is not an indictment of any one New Yorker. It is an indictment, however, of policies and politics that have persisted for far too long. Our commitment now is to act upon these findings, to do so in concert with New Yorkers' comments, as we've now opened a public comment period for the next 30 days to ensure that we have a city where we are reckoning with the long history of racism here and starting to act upon a framework that puts equity right at the center of it.
Acting on a framework that puts equity right at the center of it. Now, what is equity? This is important, right? Because that's the E word. I know he opened it with the inequities. That's inequities is an I word. Equity, E word. What is that? Everyone gets the same, right? I mean, this is a simple thing, right? And for people, when it comes to money, when it comes to financial resources, that means that the people that have more, the government comes in and takes it and then gives it to those that have less. It's communism, all right? So when he calls himself a democratic socialist, I've been saying this all along. Thank you. You can email me later and tell me, Sam, you're right. You knew this. We all knew this. This is not a mystery. He calls himself a democratic socialist. Really, he's a communist. Well, it used to be the Democrats would call themselves Democrats, and they were really socialists. Now they call themselves socialists. They're really communists. It's always orders of magnitude worse than what they're really self-reporting themselves as. But I digress. So what do we have here? What is this? And, okay, again, tying this back to the man who burned down the Kimberly-Clark toilet paper warehouse in Ontario, California earlier this week, Tuesday morning. Take that guy, who's going to undoubtedly become a hero. People are going to, he filmed a video of himself, right? Shared the video here. What does he say in the video? Can't even pay me a livable wage. People are like, yeah, I feel you. Let's look at Luigi Mangione, right? Another example, somebody who literally murdered another human being in cold blood, targeted the CEO of a company, shot him, killed him, and is now being celebrated. And now look at this. You have somebody of a powerful politician in the country who is using some kind of report that I'd never even heard of and got found somewhere in a back shelf and dusted off and retooled and made more progressive, no doubt, as a justification for confiscatory policies. They will take from those who have and give to those that don't. And the only reason, folks, that this has not become the dominant policy of the United States of America is because we've always in our economy have enough people, a majority of people, who have, and maybe they're not billionaires, obviously, but they have a house. They have a little bit of savings. They have 2 cars. They have things. They are happy and fulfilled. They have purpose. And they have I think always this is very important. They always have a hope for a better future. Today, maybe it's not that good, but tomorrow, next year, the year after, in a decade, I'll be better off. Everything will be better. Hope, I think, can be called, right? So now, again, I come back to this all the time. Again, imagine the same warehouse guy getting replaced by an Optimus robot. Now he has no job. Now he, instead of making $18, $19 an hour, is making $0 an hour. And unless he's put on massive government-sponsored welfare, which is still coming from somewhere, right? It's coming from our tax dollars, presumably. Has to do what? And he won't have any money. He'll become even more militant. Okay. And all of a sudden, I mean, if you're a wealthy guy driving in a nice car, if you live in a nice home, if you've got big walls around your property, if you're like Obama, Obama's mansion in Washington, D.C., all these big walls around it. Interesting, right? People that don't want a wall around the country, very good about walls when it comes to their properties. Anyway, they'll start going after us with pitchforks. And I think, I talk to people, because I have friends from all walks of life. And I have such a fantastic friend group. And I was talking to a buddy of mine about this who, he does okay. He said, but he lives in a modest house. He said, nobody's going to come target me. And I looked at him and I said, are you delusional? He goes, yeah, I don't drive a nice car. I got like a little Volkswagen and I got this little house. It's tiny and I don't stand out. You own your house. You don't rent. You think compared to, and there's always the danger, right? You get a little bit of upward mobility and you only look up. It's normal. Okay. People look up. Well, I have less than the 10 guys above me. But all of a sudden, when people are roaming around and they have nothing, right? Put yourselves in that position. I'm an empathetic person. I don't let it rot my brain, keep my logic, but I'm capable of empathy for that. I worry. I'm tremendously worried about where we will be. And only the most, an intellectual and sort of dispassionate person will be able to say, oh, I'm poor, but I understand that the economy works the way it does. And I guess I understand why my friend Sam has a house and has 2 cars and his kids have clothes on their back and my kids don't. I guess I understand that's just sort of how the cookie crumbles and the alternative of a communist, dictatorship is not what I want. But there's going to be one of those per million of people that think that way. Trust me. Even people who were formerly conservative won't be when the system screws them. So, is it going to be this bad? I'll level with you. I think it can get there. Is it automatic and guaranteed? No. But look at where this is all heading and look at the rapid ascent of technology. And, a year ago I was thinking, I'm not sure these robots are going to be doing much of anything. And, they're just looking like they're lumbering around and falling. Full autonomous driving right now, and Tesla has come so far in 2 years' time that it's almost unrecognizable in its capacity. So I think things are rapidly changing, and by the way, I think here in Vegas, I'm still bullish on Vegas. You know why? Economically speaking, why am I bullish? Because I think if it gets as bad as I'm suggesting, the government is going to have to provide some universal basic income. And you listen to Musk talk about this. He thinks the universal basic income is going to basically come from there's going to be so much production and so much wealth that it's just going to come down. Whether it's through the government or through a company or whatever, it's going to. I don't see that. Okay, and I'm not betting against Elon. I'm just saying I don't see how that happens. But the government, somebody's going to have to pay people not to riot. And if people are out of work and they're getting checks, what are they going to need? Entertainment. And so, if you're a young person thinking about work and about jobs in this coming new AI-driven economy, unless you own one of the data models or you have a highly specialized way to adapt one of those data models into, into an agenic force, what we would have the thought previously of as software, then if you don't do that, then if you're in entertainment or anything that requires a human, right? Again, I don't know that people want to be served at a restaurant by an Optimus robot. Maybe at lower end restaurants, but not at the mid-range, higher end. Human service will still be desired, right? Certain upper levels of customer service, although AI is catching up to that too. If you're going to be a lawyer, don't be a transactional lawyer. Be a litigator. I don't think they're going to. The bar associations are very protective. They're not going to allow robots to practice law and to go into court. Yeah. Imagine the robot doing that. If the glove doesn't fit, you must quit, right? That is a classic Johnny Cochran line with OJ, the glove. It's not going to happen. So again, there are jobs that will remain. This is my point. There are jobs that will remain. And so you just have to be smart. You got to prepare for this. That's my 10 cents. But I just see so many different alarm bells going off right now in the economy, and in not in the just it's not just the economy, in the way Americans have become callous, maybe, or who have allowed themselves, just like Jonathan Alpert describes in this Hill piece, allowed them to dissolve into identifying with villains, with evil. And some of this is, I think some of this is a product of outrage culture. How much of everything at every time is driven by outrage? I am outraged. Trump is a buffoon. Everybody's outraged. And the left has fed this. You can blame social media, sure, it's a factor, but the left has driven outrage and has wound people up because they have sought to conquer Trump, who has presented an existential threat to the entire political system as we know it. So in fighting a prominent change agent, aka Donald J. Trump, the left wound us up. I mean, Trump-Russia collusion, right? That was the first big one. I include COVID in this, actually. I'm of the absolute belief, Robbie, and this is perhaps one of my more controversial takes. Have you heard this from me before? I believe that if Hillary Clinton had been elected president in 2016, as widely predicted, if Nate Silver had been spot on right, which he certainly was not and hasn't been since, if Nate Silver was right and Hillary Clinton were elected president, come 2020, we wouldn't have COVID. And you're going, well, Sam, what the hell are you talking about? What do you mean we have COVID? I'm not saying that the virus wouldn't have existed. I am just saying that the world reaction to COVID would have been different. Now, because, well, first of all the hysteria here in America was driven by the media. And the media was driving, they saw this as an opportunity to take out Trump. And I say this as an astute observer of the European continent. Monkey see, monkey do. They haven't had an original thought over there, for years. So the European political left, they're, the globalists. Oh, everybody got the memo across the world. Why do they call them globalists? Oh, maybe because they have a global network. And this is not a conspiracy theory. It's not like this just was, everybody looked at it, was like, oh, this is our opportunity to reset the board. And incidentally, it kind of worked, right? Because that was sort of the last straw and it became chaos and Trump was trying to fight it and you just couldn't do it. But they psyched us out. They pushed this fear and outrage. And we still have teen suicides today because of the COVID shutdown. I'm convinced of this. But this is what the left does, the outrage. They drive the outrage, and then everything becomes outrageous, and then reacting to it becomes acceptable, becomes normal. Killing a CEO and popping him in the back of the head and then getting celebrated as a hero. It's par for the course. It's dangerous, crazy stuff. And yeah, no, it worries me. Absolutely does. All right, folks, let's keep a clear head on Iran. This is an hour-by-hour situation, so I'll update you every time we got a show. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. Sam Rajovsky on the What's Right Media Network, at What's Right Sam on X, formerly known as Twitter. Follow me there. And of course, Sam at what'srightshow.com is my email. I'll see you tomorrow.